English World Level 8. Class Audio and Public. CD 1. Unit 1. Pages 8 and 9. Reading.
The W.B.B. Project. Science, Art, Education, Environment. Introducing the project.
You're going to create a young people's website with a worldwide perspective. Your task is to present your thoughts and ideas about the 4 subject areas, their role in your lives, now and in the future. You can include texts, photos, video, sound pictures, interviews, monologues, whatever you choose. When the website goes live, young people around the world will be able to access the material, respond to it, and add to it. The website will grow from what you start. Pairs of teams will create each subject area. You'll be assigned your area and your partner team in our first session. You can ask other teams for their views and information to help you develop your area, and other teams will ask you to send information to them. This leaflet gives you advice about good working practices that you should try to use during the project.
Team leaders. Important people.
You have already shown that you can work as a team. When you were doing your town projects, it was easy to meet up and coordinate your work. Now there will be 8 of you working together, and you could be on different sides of the world. Team leaders must play an essential role in project coordination. Only team leaders should request information from another team. Requests from different team members for similar information could cause confusion and extra work. Make sure you copy your leader into emails that you send so that he or she knows what is going on. It's a good idea to hold regular review meetings, and team leaders should organize these.
Working with your partner team.
You'll have just 1 day in New York for discussion and planning, so make the most of it. Plan thoroughly. Don't be afraid to change your plan later if it's not working out, but do discuss it and do be aware of deadlines. At a certain point, it will be too late to make changes, and you will have to stick with what you've got. Make sure you discuss the best ways of keeping in contact so you can go on developing your ideas for your part of the website. If you hold a video or phone conference, try to be there as a group so you all share in ideas and problem solving.
Time zones.
Remember that you all live in different parts of the world and in different time zones. Here's a chart that you can use to find out what time it is for the other teams. Use an appropriate form of contact at the right time. Don't phone another team when it's the middle of their night.
Ah, what a nuisance! He's not answering.
Help is at hand.
Your project supervisor will monitor your progress and give you help and advice if you encounter difficulties or fall behind. Technical support is available from Georgi and the other design and maintenance staff of the project website. Remember to back everything up. You can't have too many copies of something, but you can have too few.
You have been making copies of everything, haven't you?
Handy hints box.
Do share information with your team. This is a group project. Don't go off doing your own thing. It's all about teamwork. Do try to respond to requests from other teams promptly. If you can't, contact them and fix a deadline that you can really make. Don't make changes to plans without talking to your partner team first. Do speak to your project supervisor if you find the workload too much. We're all here to help. Don't panic. There's a solution to every problem. Do enjoy it. Make friends, make discoveries, have fun.
Good luck. You have several months to complete the work, and then it will take several weeks to set up the website. When the website is launched, all the material you have created will be accessible all around the world.
Unit 1, page 13. Grammar in use. Activity 1.
Exciting, Holly. I'm really
Hello, everyone. Come in, sit down and take one of these leaflets. Tell me, have you enjoyed your week in New York?
Oh, yes. It's been absolutely brilliant.
We've been sightseeing and taking photos.
And judging by all those bags, you've been shopping too. Well, you've been here for a week and I know you've made lots of new friends.
Yes, we have.
Next week you'll be back home in your own countries. But I know you're going to stay in touch with each other because I'm giving you a job to do. You're going to create a website. A website where young people all over the world will be able to talk together and learn about each other's lives.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Doesn't it?
You'll find more details in the leaflet that I've just given to you.
Here's one, have a look.
I haven't seen one yet. Where are they?
There has never been a website like this before. It's a very exciting project.
Unit 1, page 16. Conversation practice. Activities 2 and 3.
What do you think of these topics then?
Well, they're all really interesting. They're very broad. There's loads of work you can do on all of them.
I hope we get science. We can look at new developments in medicine.
Or space travel.
Or robots. I did a project on robots last year.
Education's interesting. I bet schools in Kenya and Thailand are very different from our schools.
I wonder if other students wear uniforms like we do.
Or if they have to do as much homework.
What do you fancy, Holly?
My favourite's the arts. I love dancing and music and the theatre. Traditional music and traditional dancing in other countries. That's interesting.
I've never been to the theatre.
You're joking.
No, it's true. I'm not really into all that artistic stuff.
How about the environment? That's a really fascinating topic.
Absolutely. Renewable energy.
You mean wind farms and things like that? Saving the rainforests?
Protecting endangered species.
I'd love to get that topic.
That's easily the best for me too. Well, Professor Brown is going to decide who does what.
Yes, so we'll just have to wait and see.
And keep our fingers crossed.
Unit 1, page 16. Listening comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
Now, everyone, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm going to tell you which teams are going to work together on the www. project. And I'm also going to tell you which subject area each group is going to work on. If you remember, we have decided on 4 broad subject areas: science, art, education and environment. So, listen carefully. Here are the groups. Group 1, Robert. Where's Robert?
Here, Professor Brown.
OK, Robert. You and your team from Kenya are going to work with a team from Brazil. Is that all right?
Yes, that's great. And what is our subject?
Your subject area is education.
Oh, right. That's interesting.
Now, Group 2. Group 2 is made up of Usha and her team from India, and they're going to work with Ali and his team from Jordan.
And our topic, please, Professor Brown?
Your topic is science.
Wonderful. That's my favourite.
Now we come on to Group 3. Group 3 is Brad and the other Canadians, and Tippy and her team from Thailand. Are you happy with that, Tippy?
Yes, very happy, thank you.
Excellent. And your topic will be the environment.
Oh.
What's the matter, Tippy?
Well, we were hoping to get the arts.
Were you? Well, just wait a moment, Tippy. We'll see what we can do. Now, last but not least, we have Group 4, which is our Australian team, and they are going to work with...
Us, the Brazilian team.
No, Francisco. We're in Group 1 with Kenya.
That's right. Now, please listen carefully, everybody. Australia is working with the team from the UK and also with the team from Russia.
So there are 3 teams in Group 4.
That's correct. 3 teams.
And what's our subject, Professor Brown?
Well, I was planning to give the environment to Group 3 and the arts to Group 4, but Tippy has said that Group 3 would like to work on the arts. Group 4, that's Australia, Russia and the UK, how would you like to be responsible for the environment?
We'd like that, Professor Brown. Is that OK with you and your team, Carrie?
No worries. That's fine by us.
And how about you, Sergei?
That's great. The environment is a good topic.
Excellent. Now, is that clear? Do you all know what you're doing?
Unit 2, pages 18 and 19. Reading. New York, New York. The students have spent a wonderful, busy week in New York. They had spare time to see the sights of New York and wrote some pieces for the About Us section of the website based on what they saw and did. Holly and Sophia visited the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They wrote about the experience, but they made some spelling mistakes.
One of the most fascinating places we visited in New York was the Metropolitan Museum of Art at 1000 Fifth Avenue at 82nd Street. What an amazing address! We investigated the museum on the web to get some background information. It's one of the world's largest art museums. It has more than 2 million works of art from prehistory to the present day, and the exhibits come from all over the world. It opened its doors to the public on the 13th of April 1870, and nearly 5 million people visit it each year. Because it is so vast and there is so much to see, we were given a floor plan. We were told it was a good idea to focus on 3 areas we really wanted to see. We chose the sections on Islamic art, Chinese art, and arms and armour. We made sure we had some time left at the end of the visit to go up to the roof garden, which has a great view of Central Park.
They proofread what they had written by underlining the words they weren't sure of and checking in a dictionary.
Did they find all their spelling mistakes?
Jack and Ali were in a group of students who went to the theatre in Times Square. They wrote about the visit, but they made some grammatical mistakes.
You can't go to New York and not see a Broadway musical. Our group decided about The Lion King at the Lyceum Theatre in Times Square. We take a train to 42nd Street and arrived in Theatreland. It were after dark, but you would never have guessed it. So many people, so much lights from so many billboards. One was even powered by wind and solar energy. We watched the lights flashing on and off as we queued for our tickets. And what about the show? Magical. Prince Simba, our first in line to the throne, but his evil uncle Scar plot to destroy King Mufasa and Simba. Scar brings about Mufasa's death, then convince young Prince Simba that it is his fault. Simba doesn't know the truth and he runs away since many years. When Simba discovers the truth, he returns home and becomes king. The extraordinary, huge, vivid animal costumes was astonishing. The audience booed Scar and cheered Simba. Everyone were humming and singing as they left the theatre. Back in Times Square, just as bright and noisy as when we arrived. No wonder New York is called the city that never sleeps.
They proofread what they had written and corrected the mistakes they found.
You can't go to New York and not see a Broadway musical. Our group decided on The Lion King at the Lyceum Theatre in Times Square. We took a train to 42nd Street and arrived in Theatreland. It was after dark, but you would never have guessed it. So many people, so many lights from so many billboards. One is even powered by wind and solar energy. We watched the lights flashing on and off as we queued for our tickets. And what about the show? Magical. Prince Simba, our first in line to the throne, but his evil uncle Scar plots to destroy King Mufasa and Simba. Scar brings about Mufasa's death, then convinces young Prince Simba that it was his fault. Simba doesn't know the truth, and he runs away since many years. When Simba discovers the truth, he returns home and becomes king. The extraordinary, huge, vivid animal costumes were astonishing. The audience booed Scar and cheered Simba. Everyone were humming and singing as they left the theatre. Back in Times Square, just as bright and noisy as when we arrived. No wonder New York is called the city that never sleeps.
Is all the grammar now correct? Laura drafted a short piece about meeting Professor Brown at the end of their week in New York. Laura made some mistakes with her punctuation. She proofread what she had written and highlighted parts where she had made mistakes.
Professor Brown inquired if we had enjoyed our week in New York. Holly said it's been absolutely brilliant. We told him that we had been sightseeing, taking photos and shopping. He went on to say that we would soon be back in our own countries, but we needed to stay in touch because we had a task to perform. What sort of task? Jack asked. The professor informed us that we are going to create a website where young people can learn about each other's lives. He told us to take a leaflet where we'd find more information about the project.
Is any punctuation still missing?
Unit 2, page 23. Grammar in use. Activity 1.
We've got the best topic by far, in my opinion anyway.
I was really hoping we'd get the environment. I had my fingers crossed.
So did I. I was so happy when Professor Brown announced it.
I saw your face light up when he gave the environment to our group.
I heard you whispering to Sergey. You seemed pretty excited.
I was saying that we should do a feature on the Great Barrier Reef.
Carrie does scuba diving, so she knows a lot about the reef.
I came across an article about it recently. It said that scientists have noticed the coral dying.
That's terrible. Is it true?
I'm afraid so. The coral is dying in some places.
Oh, there's so much we can write about.
Climate change. That's having a terrible effect on the Arctic.
The destruction of the rainforests. That's really important.
Renewable sources of energy, wind power, tidal power, that sort of thing.
Oh, I can feel this website growing already.
Unit 2, page 26. Conversation practice. Activities 2 and 3.
Let's have a look at these photos then.
OK, the first one is Times Square. It's the most amazing, crowded place.
It's very colourful. Look at all those lights.
I know. I could watch them flashing for ages.
Is that where you went to the theatre?
Yes, that's where we saw The Lion King. This next one's Central Park.
It looks huge.
It is, and there's loads of stuff to do there.
What's this place?
This is the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's absolutely massive.
You didn't see everything then?
No chance. It has more than 2 million works of art.
2 million?
Yes, and 5 million people visit it every year.
Good heavens!
Now, this one's Fifth Avenue.
That's where all the famous big department stores are, isn't it?
That's right. It's absolutely brilliant for shopping.
And spending lots of money, no doubt?
Dad, I didn't spend too much money.
What's this skyscraper? Is it the Empire State Building?
That's right.
That's the tallest building in the world, isn't it?
It was 40 years ago, but not anymore.
You can go up to the top, can't you?
Yes, you can, but we didn't have time.
What a pity. I bet the view's amazing from right up there. Unit 2, page 26. Listening Comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
As most of you know, I was lucky enough to go to New York during the summer holidays. I had a fantastic time and visited so many interesting places. One of these was the Statue of Liberty, and I'd like to tell you a bit about it. The Statue of Liberty stands on a small island, Liberty Island, in New York Harbor. It dates from 1886. Did you know that the Statue of Liberty was not made in America? It was a gift to the people of America from the people of France. It was designed by the French sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi. It shows Libertas, the Roman goddess of freedom. She is holding up a torch in her right hand, bringing light to the world. The statue was made in France and transported to America in several separate pieces. When they arrived in America, the pieces were carefully put together on Liberty Island. To visit the statue, you have to take a ferry boat. When you get on the boat, you can see the statue in the distance and it looks quite small. As you sail closer, it gets bigger and bigger. And when you finally arrive at the island and you are standing next to the statue, you can see that it's absolutely massive. The whole thing is 93 metres tall. That's including the base, the stone part at the bottom. The height of the metal statue itself is 46 metres. Can you imagine that? Her right hand is 5 metres long and just her nose is 1.5 metres long. You can go up inside the statue. A few years ago, you could go up inside the arm as far as the torch. There's a kind of balcony around the torch where you could stand. That part of the statue is too dangerous these days, but you can go up as far as the crown. You go inside the statue, and a lift takes you most of the way up. When you get out of the lift, you have to walk up 24 stairs, and there you are, inside the crown with a fantastic view of New York. It was a brilliant trip, one that I'll never forget.
Unit 3, pages 28 and 29. Reading.
The White Giraffe. Martine Allen's parents have died, and she has travelled from England to Africa to live with her grandmother, who owns a wildlife reserve. Tendai, a Zulu tracker who works for her grandmother, has told her of a rare white giraffe believed to be in the reserve. He has found its tracks and he has followed them, but he has never been lucky enough to see the animal itself. One rainy night, Martine glimpses the giraffe from her bedroom window. She decides to go into the reserve to find it.
The air was perfume sweet, with the scent of fallen mangoes and gardenia blossoms. Martine set off blindly through the dripping trees in the general direction of the game park gate. The one useful thing she'd overheard during her investigations the previous week had been T.Doa'a telling her grandmother the new code for the padlock. She'd made a point of committing the numbers to memory. When her hands touched the cold metal gate, she felt for the heavy chain that bound it and the lock that secured it. Only then did she switch on her torch and enter the numbers on the wet dial. The padlock clicked open. Martine stared down at it, unable to believe that it had been so easy. She realized that she'd been secretly hoping all along that something would happen to prevent her from going into the game reserve. She glanced over her shoulder. Once more, the house stood in darkness. Whatever happened now, there was no turning back. Martine stepped through the gate and stifled a cry of terror. 2 red eyes glared at her. The bushes shook violently, and a waterbuck sprang up so close to Martine that its fur actually brushed her. With a shake of its horns, it bounded away into the blackness. Martine's heart smacked wildly against her ribcage. She tried to imagine what T.Doa'a would do in a similar situation. Not that he was likely to be in a similar situation, but if he were, she was sure that everything would be about staying calm and thinking clearly. Focus, she thought. I have to focus. I can do this. More than anything in the world, she wanted to find the white giraffe. Why, she wasn't sure. She just knew she had to do it. The beam from the torch picked out the path that led down to the waterhole, where the frogs were competing in a noisy chorus. Blue lightning shuddered over the mountains on the far horizon. Martine set off as quickly as she dared, trying to avoid the puddles. Even so, her jeans were soon soaked through. In places, the grass was taller than she was, and cold droplets drenched her hair and ran down her neck. As she walked, unseen creatures slithered and scurried and hopped away through the undergrowth. Martine tried not to imagine the worst. She wasn't sure which she was most scared of, snakes and creepy crawlies, or man-eating carnivores, but she fervently hoped that she didn't meet any of them. After what seemed an age, the temperature dropped, and she saw she'd reached the water's edge. She tried to pinpoint the exact spot where she had seen the giraffe. She was pretty sure it had been beside the old gum tree that stood like a startled skeleton on the left bank of the waterhole. As if sensing danger, the frogs fell silent. Tendrils of mist hovered over the water, and the night air was laden with threat. Martine quelled the butterflies in her stomach. She'd come too far to go back now. She lifted her torch and shone it into the surrounding bush. Nothing moved. Not a mouse, not a lion, not even a bird. Disappointment hit her like a blow. What had she been thinking? A mythical giraffe? She'd risked her life in pursuit of a fairy tale, and now she had to try to get home in one piece. Sheer instinct warned Martine something was behind her. The same sixth sense told her to turn around very, very slowly. A Cape cobra was coiled in the mud, barely 6 feet away from her, hood spread wide, swaying in the yellow torchlight. Martine recognized it immediately as one of the most poisonous snakes in Africa, more deadly even than the mamba. Its golden colouring was unmistakable. So was the band around its throat. The cobra's lips parted, and its black tongue flickered out evilly. Martine dropped her torch in panic. It rolled behind a boulder and dimmed to a faint glow. Then it went out. In the split second before she was plunged into darkness, Martine saw the cobra draw back its head to strike. Helplessly, she waited for its lethal bite. It never came. Instead, a pale blur exploded from the trees. There was a hideous hissing sound and the flash of flying hooves. The last thing Martine saw before she crumpled to the ground was the white giraffe.
From The White Giraffe by Lauren St. John. Glossary. Zulu, a South African tribe. Mango, a fruit. Gardenia, a flowering plant. Waterhole, a small lake. Waterbuck, an animal like a deer. Gum, a kind of tree. Cobra, a kind of snake. Mamba, an extremely poisonous kind of snake.
Unit 3, page 33. Grammar in use. Activity 1.
Oh, look! We've got an email from Carrie.
There are a couple of attachments too.
You're in the way, Jack. Move so we can all see the screen. She says she's attached some photos so that we can see what happens to a reef when the coral dies.
And she's got the name of an expert at Brisbane University. She's going to interview him in order to find out more.
Did you see that article about rainforests in the newspaper? It says vast areas of forest are destroyed every day so that farmers have land where they can grow crops.
The rainforests are cleared to provide land for cattle too.
We should email Sophia in Brazil to ask her about this.
The trees are cut down just so we can eat meat.
You're going to become a vegetarian, are you, Jack? No more burgers?
Well.
Unit 3, page 36. Conversation practice. Activities 2 and 3.
It was nice of Carrie to send us these photos.
Yes. She said she'd been looking for pictures of the Great Barrier Reef and she came across these.
Those mountains are amazing.
Carrie says they're called the Blue Mountains and they're in New South Wales. That's in the southeast, I think.
They look really high and rocky.
But there's lots of vegetation, bushes and trees and things.
I wonder why they're called Blue Mountains.
No idea. They don't look blue to me.
The next picture's really weird. What's that?
That's Uluru. It's a huge rock in the centre of Australia, in the desert.
Uluru? That's a strange name.
Some people call it Ayers Rock, but Uluru is its Aboriginal name. According to Carrie, it's a very important place for the Aboriginal people. You can walk round it, and there are caves at the base, and in the caves there are paintings that are thousands of years old.
Wow! I'd really like to go there.
This picture looks like a rainforest. I didn't know there were rainforests in Australia.
Carrie says the photo was taken in Queensland. That's the northeastern part of Australia. She says the climate is really hot and incredibly wet during some months of the year.
Right. So that's why they've got rainforests there.
Carrie says this photo was taken in a national park.
A national park? That's good. They're looking after the forest then.
What's the last picture?
This is the Great Barrier Reef. It's on the northeast coast. Isn't it fantastic?
And it's made of coral. That's amazing.
Carrie went there to go scuba diving, didn't she?
Lucky girl. I'd love to do that.
Me too.
Unit 3, page 36. Listening comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
Thanks for agreeing to do this interview, Professor Donovan.
No worries, Carrie. Happy to help. What would you like to know?
Well, first of all, can you give me some facts about the Great Barrier Reef?
Sure. The Great Barrier Reef is situated, as you know, off the coast of Queensland in the northeast of Australia. It's more than 3,000 kilometres long and it consists of thousands of individual coral reefs and hundreds of tropical islands.
Is it true that it's the only living thing on Earth that can be seen from space?
That is true, yes. But that's not the only reason that it's so special.
It's an important habitat for wildlife, isn't it?
Absolutely. There are over 400 different kinds of coral, more than anywhere else in the world. And there are over 1,500 types of tropical fish. We have more than 200 types of birds on the islands and 20 types of reptiles.
Oh, how about whales and dolphins?
Yes, we have those too. And some very rare endangered animals, such as the green sea turtle.
So it's a very rich habitat.
It certainly is, and it's very important that we protect it properly.
I've read about some problems with the coral. Is it true that it's dying?
Unfortunately, yes. Not everywhere, but in some places the coral is dying.
Why is that? What's causing it?
The problem is global warming. The world is becoming warmer. The temperature of the air and the temperature of the sea are rising.
Why is that a problem for the reef?
Coral can only exist at certain temperatures. If the seawater becomes just a few degrees too warm, it can't survive. It dies. And when it dies, it becomes what we call bleached coral. It looks white, as if it's been bleached by the sun or a chemical.
This is terrible.
It's a huge problem. If the coral dies, we lose the habitat of all those amazing animals which live here. They won't be able to survive.
And if those creatures are not here, then visitors won't come to the reef.
That's right. As you know, thousands of tourists come here every year. But without the reef and its wildlife, they won't come. It'll be both a natural disaster and a financial one too.
What can be done to prevent this?
We've got to stop global warming. It's as simple and as complicated as that.
Gosh.
Unit 4, pages 38 and 39. Reading.
Guide to Thailand. Bangkok.
The Grand Palace.
Visitors from all around the world are truly amazed by the beauty and magnificence of the richly decorated buildings of the Grand Palace. Stunning, dazzling, like a dream. It's a must. Comments like these appear repeatedly in online reviews written by visitors from every continent. The palace is one of the sights in Bangkok that every tourist should see. If you only have a little time in the city, make it your first destination.
Facts about the palace.
The Grand Palace stands majestically on the east bank of the Chao Phraya River. It is a complex of many buildings, and the whole site measures more than 218,400 square metres. It is surrounded by a protective wall which is 1,900 metres long. There are 3 parts to the palace complex: the outer court, the central court, and the inner court.
History.
The Grand Palace was built by King Rama I in 1782. At first, it was a group of traditional wooden buildings which the king used for his residence and his administration offices. More buildings have been added gradually over the centuries. The Grand Palace is no longer the permanent home of the kings of Thailand, but many buildings are used for government offices or for important occasions and ceremonies. The palace remains uniquely important to the people of Thailand.
Architecture.
Golden towers and colourful steep roofs rise impressively above the palace walls. Architectural styles include Thai, with other features from China, Cambodia and Europe. King Rama I encouraged Thai culture and literature. He told his architects to decorate his palace walls lavishly with scenes from the Thai story The Ramakien. These remarkable murals can be seen on some of the oldest buildings in the outer court of the palace. Statues representing legendary creatures stand fiercely on guard at entrances and adorn facades, terraces and staircases.
Important buildings in the palace complex.
This building in the central court was first a royal residence. Now it is used for royal ceremonies. This building was a royal residence for nearly 50 years, and foreign guests were received here. Now it is a great hall for state occasions. This is one of the oldest buildings in the palace complex, and is built in an ancient architectural style. This building has 8 towers, each one a different colour with its own special meaning. There are many other buildings to see in the outer court and central court, including libraries and galleries with murals showing historic events and battles. In the past, the inner court was the residence of the Queen, the royal children and their servants. It is not possible to visit this part of the palace. The Grand Palace is open every day from 8:30 to 15:30.
Tips from international visitors. Go by boat.
The Riverboat Express stops a short walk away. You get a great view of the palace from the river. Isabella, Argentina.
Wear the right clothes.
Shorts and sleeveless tops are not allowed. If you don't have the right clothes, there is a place where you can hire them for your visit, but it's better to have your own. Shirin, Sri Lanka.
Take
an umbrella. It will either pour with rain or the sun will burn you, so you'll need it whenever you go. Kira, UK.
Plenty of water to drink. You'll be walking a lot and you'll get very hot. Mailing, China.
Ignore the tricksters.
They wait around for tourists and try to take them to some other place. They want your money. Walk on and don't stop. David, Scotland.
A friendly man told us that the Grand Palace was closed. He said that he would take us to a palace that was open. He took us there, but afterwards he wanted us to buy expensive jewels from his friend's shop. Later, we found out that the jewels were fake and the Grand Palace wasn't closed at all. Dan, Canada.
Don't forget.
Your ticket also admits you to the Vimenmek Mansion Museum, which is near the Grand Palace. It's worth a visit. Tracy, USA.
1982 was the 200th year of Bangkok, and the mansion, built by King Rama V as a residence, was repaired. It is now a museum.
Unit 4, page 43. Grammar in use. Activity 1.
Come on, Laura. Can't you walk a bit faster? Our bus leaves in 2 minutes.
Hang on a sec. That's my phone. I've got a text.
Don't read it now.
But it might be important. Oh, it's from Robert in Kenya.
Can't you read it on the bus?
He wants us to send him information about schools in the UK.
You can email him later.
Yes, and I can tell him about our school.
Good idea. Send him some photos too.
He says he needs the information by the 25th. When's the 25th?
It's next Tuesday, I think.
He says, do we know there's a solar eclipse in Nairobi next week?
He needs to tell the science team about that, not us.
It's interesting, though.
When is our next team meeting, by the way?
I think it's on Saturday afternoon. I'll check when we get on the bus.
If we ever manage to catch the bus, come on!
Unit 4, page 46. Conversation practice. Activities 2 and 3.
What's your school like, Ross?
My school? Well, it's pretty big. There are about 1,500 students.
Wow, that is big.
It's a new school. It was built 3 years ago. So it's very modern and it's got great facilities. And we've got fantastic grounds too, where we can do sport. Football in the winter and athletics in the summer.
Sport's not really my thing. What are the classrooms like?
Oh, brilliant! They're bright and comfortable, and we've got all the latest technology, computers and so on.
It sounds amazing. Much more up to date than my school.
It's great. We've got a huge sports hall where we do gymnastics and basketball. And there's another big hall too, with a stage where we put on plays.
Oh, you're so lucky. I love acting. I wish we had a hall with a stage.
Let's see. What else can I tell you? We've got some great science labs with all the latest equipment.
Do you have lunch at school? Have you got a canteen?
Well, we have got a canteen, but it feels more like a proper restaurant, really, and the food's out of this world.
You're making me jealous. Your school sounds perfect. It sounds so much better than mine. I bet your school uniform is amazing too, something really fashionable.
Actually, it's not. Our uniform's absolutely awful.
Ha! I knew it was too good to be true.
Unit 4, page 46. Listening Comprehension. Activity 1.
What's your school like, Dan?
My school? Well, it's pretty small. There are only about 250 students, I think.
Wow, that is small. My school's huge. There are 1,500 of us.
What else can I tell you? Let's see. It's very old. It was built over 300 years ago.
Really? My school's quite modern. Do you like your school?
Yes, I do. I like it a lot. It's old, but it's got great facilities. We've got fantastic grounds where we can do sport, and we've got a swimming pool too.
A swimming pool? Oh, really? Lucky you. It's a boarding school, isn't it?
Yep.
I don't think I'd like that. I can't imagine staying at school all the time and sleeping there. Don't you miss your family?
Sometimes, but I see them in the holidays and sometimes at weekends.
Aren't you lonely?
Not at all. I've got loads of friends.
How big is your class?
There are 12 of us in my class.
12? Is that all? There are 29 in mine. Do you have to wear a uniform?
Yes, we do. But not after school or at weekends. How about you?
Yes, we have to wear a uniform too. It's dark green. I hate it.
Ours isn't too bad.
Isn't there anything you dislike about your school?
Well, sometimes I think it would be nice if there were girls at the school as well as boys.
There are no girls at your school?
No, only boys. Is yours a mixed school?
Yes, it is. Boys and girls. Is yours a private school? Does your family pay to send you there?
Yes, they do. It's quite expensive. How about your school?
My school's a state school, so it's free. My parents don't have to pay anything.
Do you like your school?
Yes, I do. Most of my teachers are really nice, and I've got lots of good friends. It's great.
Unit 5, pages 48 and 49. Reading.
Hello, Earth. Kepler Masterman is 15. He was the first child ever born on the moon. He has been brought up with few luxuries because transport from Earth is expensive. His father is the governor of the moon and is travelling to Earth for important discussions. Kepler has travelled with his father by moon ferry to the space station where they transferred to an Earth ferry. Now they are approaching Earth and Kepler has his first close-up view of the world.
I craned my neck eagerly and looked through the port. I recognised the narrow spindle of Central America, and then the steely shimmer of the Atlantic lay beneath us. It went on and on. "The planet's all water," I gasped. "7/10 of it is," Father agreed. But, oh, wow! It was feeble, but what words could I have for it? A world that was 7/10 water. Why, on Moon, water was harder to get than oxygen, much harder. Breathing was free. You could breathe as deeply and as often as you wished. Now that the hydroponic gardens were going, we didn't have to pay for our oxygen anymore. But water was something else. Every ounce of it was worth its weight in moon minerals. Dirt was removed by electrostatic filters in the labs and living units. Washing was a luxury, and drinking a special delight. There was no free water on Moon. Every ounce we used was extracted in the refinement of the ores we sent down to Earth. And the mining companies charged us for it, every drop. I had grown up thinking water was the most precious stuff in the universe. Now, with my own eyes, I could see that Earth was covered with the stuff, slopping over with it. We orbited across North Africa and Arabia. From my port, I could see the island-spangled blueness of the Indian Ocean, then the Pacific. I felt suddenly tired and a little sick. What sort of a place was this Earth, and what were its people like? Half a world made of water, and yet they had charged us for every single cup. I shut my eyes and turned away from the port. "You feeling groggy?" Father's voice was sympathetic. "They're starting their braking orbit, and I guess you'll really notice the weight difference. Don't worry. It'll get worse before it gets better, but it will get better. Just hang on." To the Earth passengers from the space station, I suppose the discomforts were minimal. Their apparent weight increased to double, and momentarily 3 times their normal weight. I had not realised until this moment what my birthright of 1/6 Earth weight was going to mean when I tried to return home. It was like a barrier separating me from all these other people. Already, I weighed 6 times my normal weight. As the braking continued, it increased to 12 times, to... the weight on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I felt as if my brain was going to burst. When I came back to my senses, the enormous pressure had lifted. I felt heavy and tired. I lifted my head and looked blurrily around. We had landed.
Kepler's father told him to lie still because he had had a nosebleed. He asked a stewardess to help him. She explained to Kepler that the force of Earth's gravity had made his nose bleed. She got him an ice pack and offered to get him a wheelchair if he couldn't walk.
"I'm going to be fine, thanks. It just takes a little practice, that's all." "Of course. Perhaps you'd like to tidy up before you leave?" I took her hint and plodded back down the aisle to the washroom. Good grief! I was a disaster area. I took off my jacket. How crudely cut it looked in comparison with the earth fashions I'd seen on the ferry, and what rough material. Then I washed the rest of the blood off my face and combed my hair, what there was of it. It looked like a convict cut by Earth standards, but it would grow. I put on my jacket and plodded down to the exit hatch. I hesitated, my hand on the ramp rail, looking at the crowd of exotically dressed reporters, cameramen and casual bystanders milling around my father. It really was a new world down there, at the end of the ramp.
From Goodbye to the Moon by Monica Hughes. Glossary of scientific terms. Hydroponic. The process of growing plants in sand, gravel or liquid without soil and with added nutrients. Electrostatic. Working by electricity that does not move.
Oxygen, a natural gas that people need to breathe. Lab, short form of laboratory, the special room where scientific work is carried out. Gravity, the force that prevents people floating off the Earth and into space. Ounce, a measurement of weight, about 25 grams.
Unit 5, page 53. Grammar in use. Activity 1.
I had an email from Tippy in Thailand yesterday.
Really? What did she say?
She's doing a web page about the theatre in different countries. She asked me to send her some information about the theatre in the UK.
I'll help if you like. I know a bit about the Globe Theatre in London.
OK, thanks. Tippy said that Usha had sent her lots of emails about the theatre in India, but she's had fewer replies from the other teams.
I've had no emails or messages at all this week.
I've had 2. That's the fewest since we started the project.
I'm sure Sergei could help Tippy. The theatre's very important in Russia, I think.
Yes, and ballet too. Which reminds me, she sent a few photos of Thai dancers. They're amazing. Well, you could show a little enthusiasm.
Sorry, but I don't have the least interest in Thai dancing.
And I have even less.
Honestly, you're terrible.
Only joking. Let's see the photos.
Wow! Look at those masks and gold headdresses. They're amazing.
Told you so.
Unit 5, page 56. Conversation practice. Activities 2 and 3.
Have you ever been to the theatre, Laura?
Yes, I have. Why do you ask?
My aunt took me to the theatre at the weekend. It was the first time I'd been.
Really? I've been a couple of times. Did you enjoy it?
It was amazing.
What play did you see?
It was a comedy and it was so funny. Actually, it was hilarious. I had a brilliant time.
The last time I went to the theatre was to see a ballet.
Ballet's just not my thing, really.
Typical boy. I loved it. The dancers were so graceful and the music was beautiful.
So, how often do you go to the theatre?
Oh, not very often at all. I go to the cinema a lot, though.
Me too. What was the last film you saw?
It was a thriller. It was quite good, but I can't remember the name.
I like action films. Exciting, fast-moving films.
I love the special effects in action films. They're so clever.
The music's usually good too.
What sort of music do you like?
All sorts, really. I like classical music. I went to a fantastic concert a few weeks ago. A youth orchestra was playing. They were brilliant, so talented.
How about modern music?
Yeah, I like pop music too.
Do you like rock bands? I'm really into rock music.
Are you?
Yes, I've got loads of CDs. You can borrow some if you like.
Great, thanks.
Unit 5, page 56. Listening comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Globe Theatre. I hope you all enjoy the tour. The original Globe Theatre was built in 1599, and it was just one of several theatres in London at that time. As many of you will know, going to the theatre was enormously popular in the 16th and early 17th centuries. Both rich people and poor people went there to see the latest plays, which were written by a number of well-known writers, the most famous of whom, of course, was William Shakespeare. This, of course, is not the original theatre. Sadly, that building was destroyed by a fire in 1613. The present Globe Theatre was opened to the public in 1999. It stands just a few metres away from the site of the old theatre. In Shakespeare's time, the south bank of the River Thames was well known for its theatres. Perhaps you have heard of the Swan Theatre and the Rose Theatre. both of which stood not far from here on the south bank. Well, let's go inside and take a look. We are standing on the ground floor of the theatre, in front of the stage, and in what is known as the pit. This is where the poorer theatre-goers stood to watch the performance. There were no seats for them. People with more money could pay to sit down. If you look up, you will see that there are 3 floors with wooden seats for the wealthier members of the audience. By the way, if you ever come to see a play here, I advise you to bring a cushion to sit on, or you can hire one from the theatre. The seats are extremely hard. The theatre is as close as possible to the design of the original theatre. Its shape is circular. It is made entirely of wood. There is no iron or steel in this building. There are no microphones. All music is played live by musicians using the instruments of Shakespeare's time. The pit, where we are standing, is open to the sky. If it rains, the poor theatre-goers watching the play from here will get very wet. The lucky ones, the wealthy members of the audience, sitting on their wooden seats around the pit, are protected from the rain by a roof. There is room for 700 spectators here in the pit, and there are seats for 857 people. That is more or less the size of an audience in Shakespeare's time. So, if you'd like to follow me, we'll go upstairs and see what the view is like for the richer members of the public, and then we'll take a look behind the stage and see what life is like for the actors.
Unit 6, pages 58 and 59. Reading.
The Honey Cellar. Climbing the Mango Trees is the autobiography of Madda Jaffrey, a well-known writer who was born and brought up in India. The autobiography tells of the author's childhood in Delhi, the capital city. This episode recounts the preparation for exams and a visit from a memorable salesman who came to the house one day during the study period.
As soon as I got home from school, hot and sweaty from cycling, my mother would produce cold farini from the refrigerator. This was a very light cardamom-scented pudding made with coarsely ground rice that my mother set in shallow terracotta bowls. I would slide the spoon in and begin eating. The sweet, cool, milky pudding, tasting of the cardamom and pistachios with an earthy aroma of terracotta, went down smoothly. There was no time to rest afterwards. May was the time for our annual exams, and all of April had to be spent doing revision. While I studied in my hot back room, my mother sat knitting for my sisters in their frigid Himalayan convent. In the superheated Delhi of April, I could hardly even look at wool, let alone touch it. My mother just carried on heroically. Each examination was 3 hours long. On most days, there were 2 exams with a break for lunch. Before I left early in the morning, armed with sharpened pencils, pens freshly filled with ink bottles, rulers and erasers, my mother would appear with a plate containing 2 almond balls. My mother firmly believed that almonds were brain food and that any child sent off to write 2 examination papers for 6 hours unfortified with almond balls was surely suffering from the grossest form of neglect. I would return home ink-stained and exhausted and immediately begin studying for the next day's exams. My mother never asked me how I had fared. She always assumed I would do well. Often she would try and distract me from my studies if she thought I was working too hard. One afternoon, when the servants were off duty, she called me saying, "Come, come, there is a man here selling honey." By the time I came out, the man was well into his sales pitch. "Purer honey than this you can never hope to find. Look at its fine golden colour. See, it still has pieces of honeycomb suspended in the middle. Smell it. The odour of nature's flowers." My mother cut right to the chase. But how do I know it is pure? What proof do you have? She was hoping she had stumped him. He turned out to be wilier than that. What proof, you want to know? The oldest proof in the world. It has worked since the beginning of time. First, you catch a fly, and then you throw it into the honey. It will sink. If the honey is impure, it will keep sinking and die. If the honey is pure, it will rise to the surface and fly away. At that, he swung his hand in the air and caught a fly, flinging it immediately into the honey. It sank. Then it started to rise, higher and higher until it reached the surface and flew away. My mother was so impressed she bought several jars, and I went back to my studies. That evening, when the cook returned from his afternoon break and my mother recounted the honey story, he said, "I remember, oh lady, you have been completely duped. I can do exactly same thing with sugar syrup." Our cook seemed as adept at catching flies with his hand as the honeyman. He caught one and threw it into a jar of sugar syrup that my mother kept for sweetening our fresh lime juice. The fly sank, then rose to the top and flew away. We teased our mother mercilessly.
From Climbing the Mango Trees by Madda Jaffrey. Glossary. Cardamom, a spice for giving a scented taste to food. Pistachios, a kind of nut. Terracotta, baked clay. Convent, a type of school for girls. Almond, a kind of nut.
Unit 6, page 63. Grammar in Use, Activity 1.
What's the matter, Laura? You look really fed up.
I am fed up. I've had a terrible row with Mum and Dad.
So what? I'm always arguing with my parents.
So am I.
But this is serious. They want me to stop working on the project.
You're joking. I don't believe it.
Neither do I. You can't leave the project, Laura.
They say I'm spending too much time on the project and neglecting my schoolwork.
And are you?
I don't think so. My marks have been okay this term.
So have mine. And I've spent hours and hours on the project.
I tried to persuade them, but I couldn't.
Nor could I. I tried talking to them too.
This is a disaster. We need you, Laura.
Absolutely. You're our computer expert. We can't do without you.
Well, I'll try talking to them again.
And so will I. But I don't hold out much hope.
Unit 6, page 66. Conversation Practice. Activities 2 and 3.
How much time do you spend on your schoolwork, Jack?
I spend loads of time on it. I'm always busy. I don't know about you, but I get masses of homework.
So do I. Far too much, in my opinion. I always have compositions to write and presentations to prepare. And they expect us to do so much reading.
I know. It never stops. And on top of all that, there are tests and exams. I spent all Sunday revising for a science test.
Poor you. What's your worst subject?
I don't know. I'm quite good at all of them. Except French. That's hard. I have private lessons at home twice a week.
Really? Extra lessons at home? How horrible. My worst subject is maths. We've got a test tomorrow.
Have you revised for it?
Not really. I haven't had much time. I went to the shopping centre with my mum this morning and then I watched TV. There was such a good film on. Did you see it?
No. I had to study for an English test tomorrow. I had to learn a long poem by heart.
You seem to spend all your free time doing homework.
No, I do other things too. I go swimming a couple of times a week, and I've just taken up the guitar. I love music.
So do I. I spend ages listening to my CDs, music and dancing. That's what I like. Revising for maths tests, that's what I don't like.
Neither do I, but it's got to be done. There's no escape.
Unit 6, page 66. Listening Comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
Now, Laura, about this project you're working on.
Please don't make me give it up.
It's taking up too much of your time, Laura. You're starting to neglect your studies.
No, I'm not. I'm working really hard at my school and I get all my homework done.
You spend far too much time on the internet.
As soon as you come home from school, you're on the computer.
Getting emails from some boy in Russia.
Sending emails to some girl in Thailand, honestly.
But the project is fascinating and it's really educational. I'm learning so much about life in other countries.
I'm sure you are, but you need to focus on your studies.
You've got to concentrate on your schoolwork, especially science, if you're going to be a doctor.
Or a lawyer.
Yes, a doctor or a lawyer. You have to get the very best marks in your exams.
But I don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Nonsense. They're both excellent professions.
Maybe, but not for me. That's not what I want.
So what do you want, Laura?
I want to make films. I want to be a film director.
A film director?
Really, Laura, you have the most ridiculous ideas.
There's nothing ridiculous about that.
That's enough, Laura. I'm not going to change my mind.
I'm sorry, Laura, but there's nothing more to say on the matter. You're giving up the project and that's that.
Oh, it's not fair.
English World Level 8. CD 2. Unit 7, pages 68 and 69. Reading.
A desert map. Luke Terry has flown to visit his father, who is filming for a TV wildlife program in the desert. As Luke went through the airport's immigration control, his passport was taken away, and he was escorted to an interview room, where a security officer asked him to open his suitcase.
Did you pack this bag yourself? The security officer gave Luke a hard stare. Yes, Luke replied nervously. He dropped his eyes under the man's hostile gaze. Did anyone give you anything to put in it? He asked icily. No, I mean, yes, Luke stammered. Which is it, yes or no? The man hissed like a striking viper. Luke felt himself break into a sweat. He tried to keep his voice even. He had no reason to feel guilty or afraid, but he felt both. My sister gave me a map. What map? The man's eyes narrowed. Luke pulled out the folded map of the desert that Miranda had given him just before he left London early that morning. Already it seemed like days ago. The officer took the map, opened it, and looked at it silently. Look, can I go now? I just need my passport back, please. My father is meeting me, so I'd like to... Even to Luke, his mumbled request sounded feeble, nowhere near the assertive tone he had been aiming for. Wait! The officer snapped and left the room. Luke felt nauseous. He tried to breathe deeply. There was no reason to panic, he told himself. He had done nothing wrong. His father was waiting for him in the arrivals hall. If the officer would just speak to his father, the problem, whatever it was, could be sorted out. Luke decided that he would suggest it as soon as the man came back. He stood up with determination as the door opened, but a different, smaller man walked into the room. Well, Mr. Luke Terry, aged 17 from London, he said with a smile, I have your passport here. Luke breathed a sigh of relief and reached out his hand to take it, but the man made no move to give it to him. First, I have just a few questions, he smiled again. Please sit down. Now, Luke, what is the purpose of your visit? I've come to stay with my father, Luke said hesitantly. For the summer holidays, he added. Your father, what does he do? The man inquired in a friendly tone. He's a cameraman with a film company, Luke explained, feeling his confidence returning. They're filming desert wildlife. It takes months, so I'm staying with him while he's working. He's going to show me some of the places where they've been filming. So you're a tourist? The man smiled at Luke encouragingly. Yes, that's right. Luke began to relax. He smiled at the man. The man smiled back. Then he leaned forward, no longer smiling, and spoke quietly. Then why are you carrying a map with ancient secret burial sites marked on it? I'm not, am I? Luke gulped in amazement. I'm afraid you are. These sites are only known to a few people. How did you get that map? The man asked sharply. My sister, Miranda, gave it to me, Luke told him. Is your sister an archaeologist? An archaeologist? No, she's a student of zoology. She's mad about animals like Dad. Then why did she mark the burial sites? I don't know. Luke's voice was raised in protest. Look, she got the map in a second-hand bookshop. It must have been marked already. The man smiled, shaking his head. We've had a tip-off, you see. We've been waiting for a young man, about your age, to arrive from London carrying a map of the desert. A marked map. Just like yours. Well, I'm not the person you're looking for, Luke insisted. This map and these sites, they're nothing to do with me or my sister. It's just a map of the desert, that's all it is. The man was completely silent. Suddenly, he sat back in his chair. I can see you're telling the truth, he said. You're free to go. Enjoy your visit. Astonished at being so abruptly released, Luke hurried out of the interview room and into the almost deserted arrival hall, where his father was still waiting. Luke, he exclaimed, what kept you? They were asking me loads of weird questions, Dad. I'll tell you on the way. As they weaved away through the evening traffic towards the desert highway, Luke told his father about the interview. His father listened attentively. When Luke had finished, his father asked, Have you still got the map? Yes, they let me keep it. That's interesting. Why? Well, if the places were so secret, you'd think they'd have taken it away, wouldn't you? Luke nodded in agreement. So they must have had a reason, said his father thoughtfully. I wonder what it is. Luke frowned. So do I, he said.
Unit 7, page 73. Grammar in Use, Activity 1.
Hi, Brad. It's brilliant to talk to you like this.
You want to know about the Exxon Valdez, right? I don't know much about it myself, but I'll try to help.
We're doing a feature on pollution of the oceans.
Great topic. Excellent.
It was Jack's idea. He's feeling very pleased with himself. When did the disaster happen, Brad?
In 1989, before I was born, but my parents have told me about it.
It happened off the coast of Canada, didn't it?
No, it happened in Alaska. That's part of the USA, but pretty close to where I live. The Exxon Valdez was an oil tanker. It hit some rocks and a huge amount of oil spilled into the ocean. It caused terrible damage.
These oil companies, they should be ashamed of themselves. Disasters like this happen too often.
Hang on, Jack. Maybe it was an accident. Accidents happen.
My dad helped with the cleanup operation.
Really? Can you ask him about it for us?
Why don't you speak to him yourselves? He'd be happy to help.
Unit 7, page 76. Conversation Practice, Activities 2 and 3.
What are you thinking about?
Environmental disasters. They seem to happen all the time, don't they?
Well, they seem to happen quite often, yeah.
That oil spill in Alaska was awful, wasn't it? It did terrible damage to the coast.
Not to mention the wildlife. Animals just couldn't cope with that level of pollution.
Those poor birds with their feathers completely covered in oil. So many died.
And lots of animals died because they ate the oil. Their food was contaminated.
It's so depressing. We do terrible things to our planet.
Well, I know the Exxon Valdez disaster was a man-made disaster. But don't forget, natural disasters happen too.
Like volcanoes erupting?
When that happens, it's no one's fault. It just happens.
How frightening. Imagine all that red hot lava coming towards your village. Terrifying.
There was that volcanic eruption in Iceland a few years ago. Do you remember? No one was hurt, but there was a massive ash cloud.
That's right. And planes couldn't fly over Europe for days and days because the ash was dangerous for their engines.
Then there are floods too. Sometimes there's so much rain that rivers burst their banks.
But floods can be man-made disasters too. Sometimes, if too many trees are cut down, especially on hills and mountains, the rain can wash away the soil and the water can't sink into the ground, so it just runs down the mountain and causes flooding.
Oh, I see. I didn't know about that. But something like an earthquake, that's never man-made, is it?
I can't think of anything more terrifying. Imagine your house starting to shake.
Ugh, horrible. And if they're severe, earthquakes can cause terrible loss of life.
I don't want to think about this anymore. It makes me too upset. Sorry.
Unit 7, page 76. Listening Comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
At 12 minutes past 9 on the evening of the 23rd of March, 1989, the oil tanker Exxon Valdez set out from the port of Valdez, Alaska. Bound for Long Beach, California, the ship was carrying 55 million gallons of oil. There were a number of small icebergs floating in the bay that evening. In order to avoid them, in order to avoid an accident, the captain of the ship, Joseph Jeffrey Hazelwood, decided to follow a different course from usual. 3 hours later, in the early hours of the 24th of March, the Exxon Valdez ran onto rocks. Immediately, the oil the ship was carrying started to pour out into the cold, clear Alaskan Sea. It did not take long for the sticky black oil to reach the shore and spread along the rocky coast. It has been estimated that more than half the ship's cargo, perhaps as many as 30 million gallons of oil, spilled into the ocean over the next days and weeks. The cleanup operation started the day after the accident and continued for many months. During that time, approximately 11,000 Alaskan residents worked along the coastline to try to restore the environment. However, the scale of the disaster was huge, and progress was slow. What did this accident mean for the wildlife of the area? It resulted in the deaths of between 100,000 and 250,000 seabirds, 2,800 sea otters, 300 seals, 250 eagles, 22 killer whales. Billions of fish eggs were destroyed. This resulted in a drastic reduction of fish in the area. Because of this, creatures such as killer whales, which fed on the fish, also died through lack of food. In the months that followed the accident, even more animals died through eating contaminated food or as a result of grooming feathers or fur which still held small amounts of oil. Over 20 years later, the region is still struggling to recover. Many people believe that the Exxon Valdez disaster was one of the worst man-made environmental disasters of all time.
Unit 8, pages 78 and 79. Reading.
Text messaging. Great or not? Language magazine recently conducted a survey asking people about text messaging. Those taking part were asked if they used text messaging and what effect they thought it was having on the standard of English used by young people. Of the people surveyed, 48% used text messaging. 51% thought it made the standard of young people's English worse. 49% thought it made no difference. Here is a sample of the replies showing widely differing opinions.
I am particularly concerned about text messaging because of the harmful effect it has on young people's spelling. Of course, many of my pupils are fully aware that before is fine in a text message, but is inappropriate in a piece of schoolwork. More problematic is the text messaging convention of using a capital letter to represent double letters in a word, e.g. tomorrow and looking. Fewer pupils realize that this is actually wrong, and it creeps into their written English. But even this convention seems to be disappearing, and tomorrow, looking, etc., is becoming the norm. Anna.
Why are we getting so worked up about text messaging? Why do we assume that it is just a teenage craze? It is, in fact, a recognized means of communicating in business. Billions of text messages are sent each year by adults who find it quick and easy to use, and can't imagine how they ever managed without it. I know I do. Don't you? Ahmed Eid.
I have always had a bee in my bonnet about punctuation. Without it, written English can be rendered meaningless. The fact that punctuation is used in text messages solely to draw little pictures, dash, colon, dash, dash, close brackets equals I'm happy, is ridiculous. No capital letters, no full stops. It is so difficult to make out what the message is. I'm sure you have the same problem. Amy.
Let's analyze why those who use text messaging see it as an advantageous means of communication. Firstly, in my opinion, it is such a quick and immediate way of passing on information, asking and responding to questions, and making arrangements that it is obviously here to stay. Secondly, it is very private, more private than the telephone, where anyone in the vicinity can hear at least one side of the conversation. You have to admit, these are very positive advantages. Jifan Patel.
My major concern is the very limited vocabulary needed to be proficient at texting. Feelings are expressed using smiley or disgruntled yellow faces or emoticons. The rich and varied content of the English language is limited to a few stock phrases, and young people are losing the ability to express themselves in any way other than grr ate and her ate. Maria Ferreira.
Text messaging is here to stay. More and more young people have mobile phones and choose texting as a quick, efficient means of communicating. Some people want to ban text messaging. What a ridiculous notion! What we have to do is to ensure that young people know that the language and conventions of texting, with all their abbreviations, missing punctuation and odd spellings, are appropriate only for texting and should not be used in any other form of written communication. We won't do that by trying and failing to ban it. As adults, one of the main reasons we don't like the idea is that to many of us it is strange and new. So, learn about it, be willing to use it appropriately, and then you can advise young people how to use it wisely and selectively. Sarah Evans. Unit 8, page 83. Grammar in use. Activity 1.
Ross, is that you?
Holly? What's the matter?
Something terrible's happened. I'm in such a panic.
Try to calm down. What's the problem?
I've lost it. I've lost the project. It was all on the memory stick and now it's gone. All our work has disappeared.
Oh dear. How annoying.
Annoying? Annoying? It's disastrous. I'm so angry with myself I could scream.
What happened exactly?
I don't know. I was in a rush. I was working so fast that I wasn't concentrating properly. What a stupid thing to do.
Take it easy. It's not the end of the world.
But it is. It is. Why do I do such silly things?
Don't worry. Everything'll be okay.
How can you stay so calm?
Because there's someone who I'm sure can help. Laura. She's our computer expert.
But Laura's left the project. She hasn't got time for this.
She'll make time. This is an emergency. Don't worry.
Unit 8, page 86. Conversation practice. Activities 2 and 3.
Poor Holly. She's so upset about losing all that work.
I know. But I can't believe she's lost everything. Anyway, I hope Laura can help.
Well, that depends on Mum and Dad. Have you ever lost anything on the computer?
I have, actually. I did a big science project last year. It was all on my laptop and somehow I lost half my files.
How on earth did you manage that?
I don't know. Perhaps I didn't save them. Or maybe I deleted them by mistake.
I hate losing things. I lost some money last week.
Really? How much?
Quite a lot. It was my birthday present from my uncle.
Where did you lose it?
In the shopping centre. 1 minute it was in my pocket, and the next minute it was gone.
What a shame. Maybe a pickpocket took it.
Maybe.
I thought I'd lost my keys the other day and I couldn't get into the house. I was locked out. I had to wait 2 hours for Mum to come home.
What a nuisance.
Yes. And then I found the keys on my desk. I'd forgotten to put them in my bag. So stupid.
I couldn't find my mobile the other day. I looked everywhere. I thought I'd lost it, like you and your keys.
So you found it?
I borrowed Laura's mobile and phoned my number. I could hear my ringtone coming from my room, but my room was in such a mess that I couldn't see it. I tracked it down eventually. It was under a pile of clothes.
Well, at least you found it.
Unlike my mum, who lost her engagement ring somewhere on the beach last summer. And unlike my dad, who left his camera in a restaurant and didn't realise it was missing until 5 days later.
You're a forgetful lot, aren't you?
Well, losing things does seem to run in the family.
Unit 8, page 86. Listening comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
I think I left it on the train. I was on my way to the office and I needed to do some work before I got there, so I took out my papers and started reading a report and making notes. As the train approached the station, I remember putting my papers away. I stood up to get off the train and I'm sure I had it in my hand. No, wait a minute. I put it down on the seat while I put on my coat. The train was very crowded. I wonder if someone picked it up by mistake. What a nuisance.
I'm sure someone took it. I was in the cafe down the road waiting for a friend. He was late, so I sent him a text and asked him where he was. He replied, eventually. He'd only just woken up. Can you believe it? I knew it would take him at least half an hour to get there, so I put it down on the table and went to get a cup of coffee. I only turned my back for a minute. When I looked round, it had gone.
I'm in such a panic. My mum is going to be so furious. It belongs to her, you see, and I didn't ask her if I could borrow it. Oh, it was so pretty and it looked really nice with this dress. I have no idea how I lost it. I am going to be in such big trouble. Oh, I think it was quite valuable.
Well, it broke down, you see, and I had to take it to the repair shop. They fixed it for me, and I went to pick it up yesterday afternoon. Well, I was just carrying it to my car when this group of boys appeared and blocked my path. One of them said, he was a bit rough, he was, "Hello, Grandma, you got a present for me." And he just snatched it out of my hands and they all ran off. Well, I couldn't catch them. They were too fast for me. What's that? Am I all right? Yes, I'm fine. I'm just cross that I can't send any emails.
It's black and brown. It's not very big. It's not mine. I was looking after it for my sister. I don't even like it. It looks very nice, but it's got a horrible temper. So if you see it, don't try to pick it up, whatever you do. You'll regret it.
Unit 9, pages 88 and 89. Reading.
And the winners are... Do you like entering competitions? Sometimes you can win a prize. Sometimes you can vote for your favourite person, place or thing, and the one with the most votes is the winner. A competition to find not one but several wonders of the United Kingdom was organised by a national newspaper, and there was an overwhelming response. In the first stage, people went online and made suggestions. 25 locations were then chosen, and by the third stage, people had 14 from which to make their final selection. In all, over 20 million people voted in the competition, and here are some of the most popular places that include natural, historical and cultural treasures.
Hampton Court. The palace and grounds of Hampton Court are located in Greater London and are one of the city's most popular attractions. Built as a manor house in the 11th century and remodelled as a palace by Henry VIII, many say that this was the king's favourite residence. The palace is surrounded by a breathtaking estate that is famous for its maze. It was designed by George London and Henry Wise around 1700 and extends over 1,350 square metres. People enjoy getting lost in it, and you can wander around the narrow paths for ages without finding your way out.
Stonehenge. Situated on Salisbury Plain in the county of Wiltshire, Stonehenge is a prehistoric monument. It is a circle of large standing stones. It was begun around 5,500 years ago and added to over a 2,000-year period. We know that it was being used initially as a burial site, but what other uses it had remain a mystery. Just as puzzling is how the bluestone, sarsen and Welsh sandstone were carried over colossal distances to the site. As well as Stonehenge itself, the area has a number of other important prehistoric sites. It covers an area of 800 hectares and became a World Heritage Site in 1986. It will continue to be visited and studied for many years to come. Plans are being drawn up to provide a new visitors' centre 2.5 kilometres from the standing stones.
Ben Nevis. This majestic peak, standing at 1,344 metres, is the highest point in Great Britain. It is situated in the Grampian range of mountains in Scotland. The name Ben Nevis translates from the Scottish Gaelic as the mountain with its head in the clouds. The first recorded ascent of Ben Nevis was made on the 17th of August 1771 by James Robertson. The mountain is still a popular destination for climbers today, and 100,000 people make an attempt to reach the summit each year. The steep and rocky sides, together with year-round snow and fog, lead to a high number of mountain rescues. In 1999, for example, there were 41 rescues and 4 fatalities.
Castle Howard. This building in Yorkshire is considered one of the grandest private houses in the United Kingdom. Construction began in 1699 and was completed in 1712 for the Earl of Carlisle. It was designed by John Vanbrugh. The castle has 145 rooms, 1,000 acres of gardens and a lake. Since it opened to the public in 1999, it is not only popular with tourists, 230,000 visited in 2009, it is also a popular setting for films and TV programs.
Wastwater. Situated in the Lake District National Park, Wastwater holds many national records. It is 4.6 kilometres long and 600 metres wide. At 79 metres, it is the deepest lake in England. It is encircled by mountains, including England's highest peak, Scafell Pike. For this reason, it is a very popular place for climbers. In 2007, Wastwater was voted the winner of a television competition to find Britain's favourite view.
The Giant's Causeway. The Giant's Causeway can be found on the northeast coast of Northern Ireland and is one of the United Kingdom's most extraordinary attractions. There are about 40,000 basalt columns resulting from an ancient volcanic eruption. The tallest of the columns is about 12 metres high. The Giant's Causeway became a popular tourist attraction in the 19th century and remains so to this day. Visitors can actually walk over these extraordinary columns that are the home for seabirds such as the cormorant and razorbill and rare, unusual plants.
Unit 9, page 93. Grammar in Use, Activity 1.
Holly is so upset about losing our work. She's furious with herself.
I know. She texted me in a panic. Poor Holly.
Do you think you can help? You're so good at IT.
Ross, there's no problem. I've got the whole project on my laptop.
Are you sure?
Of course, silly. I always make copies of everything.
Phew, what a relief.
And here's some more good news. I'm back on the project.
Really? How come?
Well, I had to tell Professor Brown that I couldn't carry on, and he phoned up Mum and Dad and talked them round.
Amazing.
I'm so grateful to him. I was getting fed up with all the arguments.
I bet.
So tell me what's been going on. What are the other teams up to?
Well, the science team...
Usha in India and Ali in Jordan.
That's right. They're doing a feature on healthy eating and young people's eating habits.
I wonder if theirs are different from ours.
We'll find out. They've prepared a questionnaire.
Excellent!
Unit 9, page 96. Conversation Practice. Activities 2 and 3.
So, Usha and Ali are doing a feature on healthy eating?
Yes, and they especially want to know what young people's eating habits are.
Interesting. Do you think you eat a healthy diet?
Me? Yes, I think so.
What's your favourite food?
Burgers and chips. Or pizza.
In other words, fast food. That's not very healthy, is it?
I don't eat them every day. How about you? Don't you eat fast food?
Hardly ever. I'd rather have something healthy like meat or fish or vegetables.
I'm not very keen on vegetables.
What about fruit?
Well, I like bananas, but that's about it.
Ross, you have to eat fruit and vegetables. They're full of vitamins. I bet you eat loads of snacks.
I eat some snacks, yes.
Like what?
Crisps.
How many packets do you eat every day?
2 or 3.
Ross, that's terrible. Do you know how much fat and salt there is in a packet of crisps?
No.
Do you eat sweet things too? How about cakes and biscuits?
I like cakes and biscuits, but I don't eat many sweets, except chocolate. I usually have a couple of chocolate bars in the afternoon.
So you eat lots of salt, lots of fat, and lots of sugar. Oh, honestly, this is the unhealthiest diet ever.
Unit 9, page 96. Listening Comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
Right. Section A. What do you eat every day?
Question 1. What do you have for breakfast? What do you have, Jack?
Oh, I usually have cereal. You know, cornflakes or something. And I might grab a piece of toast too. And I drink milk usually. How about you? What do you have?
Oh, I usually skip breakfast. I never have time.
Tut tut. My mother says breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Does she really? Question 2. If you have a break at school, what do you eat and/or drink? Well, I have a packet of crisps.
And I usually have some fruit, an apple or something. And I have a drink of water.
Me too. Or fruit juice.
Question 3. What do you eat for lunch?
Well, that depends where I am. If I'm at school, I have a sandwich and a chocolate bar. But if I'm at home, I'll have something a bit more interesting, like a pizza.
Question 4.
Hang on. You didn't answer question 3.
Yes, I did. I have the same as you.
Right. Question 4 then.
What do you eat when you get home from school?
OK. Crisps, cakes, biscuits. I'm always so hungry.
Me too. But I usually have a sandwich. I don't eat sweet things like cakes and biscuits very often.
Really? I love them.
Question 5. What do you have for dinner? I don't know what to say here. We have all sorts of different things.
So do we. Oh, look at question 6. That's easy to answer. What's your favourite meal?
Mine's roast chicken and vegetables. What's yours?
Burger and chips.
Unit 10, pages 98 and 99. Reading.
The First Nations.
Hi, Brad. The Kenyan and Brazilian teams have watched videos of the Canadian First Nations in the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics in Vancouver 2010 on the internet. Fantastic! We wish we'd been there. Can you recommend a website so we can find out more about the Aboriginal peoples of Canada? Robert.
Canadian Museum of Civilization. www.civilization.ca. Great site. Brad.
1093 Mountain Avenue, Thika, Kenya, 18th of January. Dr. Paul Davis, Canadian Museum of Civilization, Quebec. Dear Dr. Davis, I am writing to thank you for sending us the information about your recent archaeological excavations in northeast Canada. We have read your blog on the website. Thank you too for sending us the email addresses of the school students who joined your team on the dig. We have exchanged several emails with Carly Chego and Annie Bennett. They told us how much they enjoyed excavating and how much they learned about the lives of their ancestors. They were particularly excited about the decorated pottery that was 6,000 years old. If you had not replied to us, we would not have contacted them, and we would not have made new friends across the ocean, so we are very grateful to you. We have started to find out a lot more about the other First Nations of Canada. We had no idea there were so many different people speaking their own languages and with their own culture in modern Canada. Carly told us about her grandmother, who does the most beautiful embroidery on animal skin and makes the same clothing that the Mi'kmaq people have been making for centuries. We have just started to find out about the Haida people on the northwest coast. We think the spirit of the Haida Gwaii is a wonderful sculpture, and we can understand why it is on the Canadian $20 note. Thank you again for all your help. We would be grateful if you could let us know when you are starting your next dig. We would like to follow your blog live next time. Yours sincerely, Robert Githiga.
Museum Brill. Check out Northern Cree. Hand drum competitions online. Inspiring. Sophia.
Expect surprise in post. Carly.
1093 Mountain Avenue, Thika, Kenya, 25th of February. Dear Mrs. Chego, thank you very much for the beautiful quill box that you made and Carly sent to us. We've never seen anything like it. We have porcupines in Africa, but we didn't know their quills could be used to decorate objects. I showed it to my aunt. She does traditional beadwork, so she knows how long it takes to make things by hand. She was really interested in it and admired it very much. Thanks for the photos of last year's powwow and for telling us about your plans for this year. We wish we were coming. It looks like a wonderful occasion. We have traditional clothing in Kenya too, but it's nothing like as spectacular. We've all enjoyed finding out about the lives of First Nation people. My aunt says that it's important to keep traditional cultures alive. That's why she tells me old stories in Kikuyu, which is our language. I'm sending you a photo of my aunt wearing traditional beadwork. I hope you like it. Best wishes, from Robert.
Glad you liked the box, Robert. Quilling is an authentic Mi'kmaq craft. Grandma loves to make beautiful things, and she insisted that I send it. My cousin Ellie was one of the shawl dancers for the Olympic opening. She wore a shawl that Grandma had made and embroidered. See attached photo. I wish she'd make one for me, but I can't dance. I took it from a distance, but you can still see the beautiful colors. We were so proud of Ellie and all the other First Nation people in the ceremony. It gave us freedom to show the world that our art and culture is alive, and how much it means to us. Let us know if we can do anything else for the website project. It sounds amazing. When will the site go live? Do you want some powwow video clips? Recorded stories in Algonquin? Anything? Carly.
Unit 10, page 103. Grammar in use. Activity 1.
OK, is all our work ready to send to Professor Brown?
When's the launch happening?
Next Saturday.
It's so exciting. I wish it was next Saturday now.
Where's your work on the rainforests, Holly?
On the memory stick, I hope.
Don't forget my piece about using water wisely.
When's the launch happening?
Next Saturday. I wish you'd pay attention, Jack.
Our work on pollution is really excellent, I think.
The interview with Brad's dad about the oil spill in Alaska is just great.
I wish I'd done something on noise pollution. That's a big problem too.
You can do it after the launch. The website is going to grow all the time, remember?
We've got so much material. I can't believe it.
I think we can be really proud of ourselves.
Unit 10, page 106. Conversation practice. Activities 2 and 3.
I think our work on the environment is really good.
Me too. What do you think the most important environmental problems are?
I don't know. There are so many, aren't there?
In big cities, air pollution's a big problem. There are just too many cars and too many traffic jams. Think of all those fumes going into the air.
Dirty factories make things worse too.
And water pollution is a problem. Just think what happens when there's an oil spill at sea. It's a disaster.
Yes, that's terrible. But there's another problem, and it's really serious because it's happening all the time.
What's that?
The destruction of the rainforests. We have to stop it.
You're absolutely right. It's a huge problem. Cutting down the trees in the rainforests It's helping to increase global warming.
And it destroys the habitats of lots of animals too.
There are so many endangered species. It's frightening. Pandas, tigers, their numbers are decreasing.
And polar bears and some whales, they're in danger too. If we're not careful, they'll become extinct.
We need to look after these animals. It's their world too, not just ours.
It's difficult to see how we can help protect the environment, isn't it?
Well, there are some things that all of us can do. Recycling is important. We can recycle lots of things. Newspaper and cardboard, for example.
And glass and cans.
Yes, and we can use fewer plastic bags too. It all helps.
I know, but I wish we could do more.
Unit 10, page 106. Listening Comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
Hi, this is Usha speaking. There are two environmental problems which I am especially interested in. The first is water pollution. In some parts of Asia and Africa, the water in the rivers is not clean, but people have to use this water for everything. Washing clothes, bathing, cooking, drinking. This causes many diseases. We have to improve the quality of the river water and make sure people have clean water to drink. My other concern is wildlife and, in particular, tigers. These magnificent creatures have been hunted almost to extinction in India. Today we have some areas where they are protected, but I wish more could be done to help them.
Hi, Sergey here. One of the big problems in Russia, especially in the big cities like Moscow, is air pollution. We have far too many cars in our streets, and there are traffic jams all day long. Sometimes breathing the air makes you feel ill because of all the fumes. I think we should restrict the number of cars which are allowed into the center of our cities, and also we should make public transport like buses and underground trains cheaper. That way people might start to leave their cars at home.
Hello everyone, TP here. I agree with Sergey. We have to find a way to stop people using their cars so much. People in Bangkok, our capital city, have the same problems as the people in Moscow. The quality of the air we breathe is terrible sometimes.
Hi, this is Ali speaking. As you know, Jordan is in the Middle East and our climate is very hot. We have very little rain, especially during the summer months. Because of this, one of the biggest problems in my country is providing enough water for everybody's needs. We have to be very careful about the way we use water. We must use it wisely and never waste it.
My main concern is global warming. Temperatures are rising, and it's because of the way we live our lives. Flying in planes, driving cars, clearing forests. We've got to do something about it, because it is having a terrible effect on our world. Carrie has told us about the barrier reef in Australia, and how rising sea temperatures can destroy the coral of the reef. Well, the same thing is happening in my country too. In the north of Canada, the sea ice is melting. This means that the habitat of the polar bears is disappearing. They need to live on the sea ice because this is where they hunt for food. Without the sea ice, they can't survive. I'm really worried about this problem. It would be a tragedy if the polar bear disappeared.
Unit 11, pages 108 and 109. Reading.
Giving a class presentation.
You've probably had to stand up and talk to your class, haven't you? Giving a presentation can be a nerve-wracking experience. You can, however, make life easier for yourself by preparing thoroughly and being familiar with the material by practicing in the privacy of your own room. Here's how to go about it.
At the beginning.
Are you choosing your own topic, or is one being given to you?
Choosing your own topic.
Although you have been given the freedom to choose your own topic, think very carefully. Do not select something you know nothing about. Choose something you have some knowledge of, are interested in, and that your audience will be interested in.
Given a topic.
Ensure you know exactly what is required. Are there certain aspects that you should concentrate on? Find out the duration of the presentation. Is this a group presentation or an individual one?
Group presentation.
If you will be working in a group, decide what aspect of the topic you are presenting and how long you have to speak.
We must work as a group, mustn't we?
Research.
Make sure that you use several sources for the information you need. Just looking at one book or website is not a good idea. This will not give you a broad range of information, will it? Make detailed notes on the information you find. Your audience will know if you are vague and unprepared. Group your notes under different aspects of the topic you are presenting. This will help you to quickly organize the final text.
Organizing the text.
Review the notes you have made under different headings. Decide in what order you will be presenting the information. If you find it helpful, write down your text in full first. You should then condense the information onto small cards. Write key words and use different colours to jog your memory. You would find it tedious just listening to someone read, wouldn't you? So will the audience.
Making your presentation interesting.
You need to engage the audience's interest throughout your presentation. Just standing and talking can be quite boring, so think about using technology. You may decide to use a whiteboard, a projector, etc., but make sure you have practiced with the technology beforehand. Don't let the first time you use it be when you are actually giving your talk. Using visual aids. As well as giving your audience pictures, diagrams, etc. to look at, you may be able to hand around relevant objects that will make your presentation more interesting.
Last-minute tips.
Make sure you are there before your audience. Have checked any equipment you are using. Sorted your note cards into the correct order. Have a glass of water on the table. Talking is thirsty work.
And remember,
don't forget to look up at your audience. They don't want to be staring at the top of your head as you read your notes. Speak slowly and clearly. You will be giving an interesting presentation, but it is not much use if no one can hear you. Leave time at the end for questions. If you do not know a particular answer, don't guess. Someone else in the room may come to your rescue, or you can make a note of the question and promise to find out the answer as soon as possible.
Unit 11, page 113. Grammar in use. Activity 1.
This is so exciting. I can't wait.
It'll come online at 10 o'clock, won't it?
Yes, just a few more minutes to go.
What time will it be in Russia? Will Sergei be able to see it?
It'll be 1 o'clock in the afternoon there, won't it?
Yes, I think so.
Brad won't be able to see it, will he? It'll be the middle of the night in Vancouver.
We should text him, shouldn't we? And wake him up.
He'll be awake, I'm sure. He wouldn't miss this for anything.
What's the time? Is it 10?
Yes, it is. I'm going to go online.
Come on, hurry up. You haven't forgotten the web address, have you?
Of course not. OK, wait a second. And
there it is. There's our website.
I can't believe it. It looks amazing.
The web designers have done a brilliant job, haven't they?
They certainly have. This is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Unit 11, page 116. Conversation practice. Activities 2 and 3.
You've got your own computer, haven't you, Holly?
Yes, I've got a laptop. Have you got one?
No. Laura's got one. She doesn't like me borrowing it, though. I have to use the family computer in the living room.
That's okay, isn't it?
I'd rather have my own laptop, so I can use it in my bedroom whenever I want.
Yes, I know what you mean.
I hope I'll be getting one for my birthday.
Nice present. I couldn't do without mine.
What do you use it for most?
Chatting to my friends, I think, and sending them messages. How about you? What do you do on the computer?
I play games mostly, and there are some websites I like to go on.
What's your favourite? Some football website, I expect.
Yes, I really like the Manchester United website. It's brilliant.
My favourite's called Trendy Girl. It's all about clothes and fashion and hairstyles and makeup.
I've told Mum and Dad that I've got to have my own laptop because I need it for my homework.
Well, that's true. We often need to do research, especially for projects and presentations.
And I could send emails. Do you send many emails?
Not really. I use my computer for having fun. I like listening to music on it and watching films.
Exactly. If I had my own laptop, I could listen to the music I like without disturbing the rest of the family. And I could watch the films I like in my room. We wouldn't argue all the time about who's going to watch what on the TV.
It sounds like you definitely need your own computer.
I think so.
Unit 11, page 116. Listening Comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
Well, hello everybody. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Global Youth Link. I've been involved in this project for almost a year now, and it's been one of the most exciting things I've ever done. It all started when the team from Hampton, of which I was a member, won the Portrait of Our Town project. Our prize was an amazing trip to New York. When we arrived there, we met winning teams from many other countries, and we got a surprise. We were all going to work on a new project, Global Youth Link. We were going to create a website where young people all over the world could share their interests, their problems, their thoughts, and their feelings about topics which concern them. What an opportunity! When all the teams met for the first time in New York 9 months ago, we didn't know each other at all. Well, that soon changed. I think we all know each other very well indeed now, and many of us have become close friends, which is fantastic. During the last 9 months, we have all worked incredibly hard to produce the Global Youth Link website. I have to say that we are not just happy with the results. We're absolutely delighted. I think we can be really proud of ourselves. A few facts and figures. We started off with 9 teams from different countries around the world. With 4 members in each team, that gave us 36 young people ready to start work on the project. You will be interested to know that by the time we went online last week, 300 young people had contributed to the project in one way or another, sending their opinions and comments by email, letter, text and phone. And since we went online a week ago, over 2,000 people from 45 different countries around the world have visited the site. Many of them have left messages of support. Yuko from Japan says, "I love this site. I'm looking forward to making new friends around the world." Maria Jose from Chile in South America says, "This is a wonderful website. I've learned so much already." Lance, who lives in Hawaii in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, says, "This is great. Keep up the good work." This is a real chance for young people around the world to talk to each other, to discuss what is important to them, and to share ideas. Already on the website, there are 12 hours of video recordings and 7 hours of audio recordings. There are 249 photos. There are 18 reports, 15 interviews, and 176 messages on the message board.
And of course, the site is growing all the time. I hope that you will visit the website as soon as you can. I know you'll find lots of things to interest you.
Unit 12, pages 118 and 119. Reading.
Global Youth Link.
Home, art, science, environment, education.
Global Youth Link is launched! A message from the website creators. Welcome to the Global Youth Link website. We hope you enjoy looking at everything on the site and reading the pages. It seems a long time since we all met in New York to start the project off. Back then, we didn't know each other and we didn't always know much about each other's countries either. That's all changed. Over the last year, we've been constantly in touch by all possible means, from one-word texts to video conferences and from online social media to snail mail. Our task has been to find out young people's experiences in the fields of art, education, environment and science, their views about them and their hopes and expectations of them for the future. In the process of assembling these, we've contacted hundreds of other young people. We've followed links and joined in blogs. We've set up online discussions and we've received hundreds of photos, video clips and sound recordings. Each team has been responsible for one of the fields. Together, we've discussed all the information we've received and we planned together how we would include it and present it on the website. If you click on one of the subject areas, you can explore all the material for that field. You can respond to anything and you can add more content. This is only the beginning. Help us make it grow into an encyclopedia of ideas, thoughts and information from young people worldwide.
Carrie, Usha,
Robert,
Brad,
Tippy,
Ellie,
Sophia,
Sergey,
Laura,
Holly,
Dahlia,
Jack,
Hassan,
Mona,
Ross,
Igor.
Home,
the project. How it started.
a portrait of our town. Winning projects.
New York.
Diaries. Presentations. Reviews. Photo gallery.
How to join in.
Comment. Add to the website. Submit material to the online archive and catalogue.
About us. The teams.
Canada. Brazil. Australia. Russia. UK. Jordan. Kenya. India. Thailand.
Staff.
Web manager. Georgi Dolitse. Georgia. Coordinators. International. Professor Brown, UK. Dr. Nazir, Egypt. National.
Jordan. Team members.
Ali. Dahlia. Hassan. Mona.
Dahlia. Dahlia Baroud. Personal message. Profile. Personal message.
It's been hard work a lot of the time. Well, all of the time, to tell the truth. I'm thrilled to have the friendship of people on every continent. They've expanded my world and given me new ideas. This has been a life-changing experience, and I'm not the same person that I was when we started. I've learned so much about other people and, crucially, about myself too.
education,
views. Everyone we contacted or who contacted us believes that education is important. We found out that getting a good education is not so easy for some people as it is for others. Where you live makes a big difference to your opportunities. In some places, the circumstances of your family and your parents' ability to pay can make a big difference too. We received this message from a 15-year-old Kenyan girl who told us, "Many children in Africa still cannot go to school. Either their parents are too poor to pay, or there is no school for them to go to. This situation is neither just nor necessary. The right to education is a human right. That means it is for every child. Governments could do more for education, but often they spend money on things that we don't need, like arms and huge government buildings. Education is more important than either of these." Do you agree? Post your views here.
35 minutes ago. I agree. It's very unfair that some children can't go to school. Sarah, UK.
30 minutes ago. I don't agree that education is more important than defense. We need armies to keep us safe. Annie, Georgia.
15 minutes ago. That's rubbish, Annie. We need teachers more than we need soldiers. Greg, Canada.
Video catalogue.
View by subject. View by length. View by subject. Sports. Russia. Ice hockey.
Photo gallery. Soundtracks.
Poetry recital. Jordan. The creation of the world. Aboriginal myth in English and Tiwi, Australia. More.
Reports.
Canadian First Nation students campaign for a new school. Read more. Thai students learn geography from a helicopter. Read more.
Recounts.
Travelling to Amazonian school by canoe. More.
School profiles.
Canada, 27. Brazil, 20. Jordan, 21. Russia, 30. India, 29. Kenya, 16. Thailand, 25. UK, 32. Australia, 35.
Brazil, number 14.
Santa Maria High School, Brazil City. Number of students, 2,000. Grade 7 to 11. Read more.
Unit 12, page 123.
Hooray! Hip hip!
Hooray!
Unit 12, page 126. Conversation practice. Activities 2 and 3.
What do you think of the home page, Ross?
I think it's brilliant. The designers have done an absolutely fantastic job. It couldn't be better in my opinion.
I agree. It's really eye-catching, isn't it? I love the colours and the graphics.
They're great, aren't they? And it's really easy to navigate the site too. That's a plus in my opinion.
What's your favourite part?
I don't know. I like loads of stuff about it.
I think it's good that people can find out about the background to the project. They can learn about how it all started with the Portrait of Our Town project, and they can find out about our trip to New York.
They can meet the teams too, see what we all look like and get to know us as people. That's important, don't you think? It makes the site more personal and friendly.
If you were a person who didn't know anything about the project and you came on here for the first time, what would you look at first?
Well, let me see. I'd read the message from the website creators, and then I'd click on one of the topics. Environment, probably. How about you?
I'd do the same, but I'd probably click on a different topic. Education, probably. I'd like to find out about schools in different parts of the world.
Would you leave a comment?
Yes, I might. If I really liked something or if I disagreed with something, I'd say so. Yes, I'd leave a comment. How about you?
You know me. I like to get involved. So, yes, I'd definitely leave a comment.
Unit 12, page 126. Listening comprehension. Activities 1 and 2.
Hi everyone, Usha here. The website is absolutely amazing. Congratulations to everybody. I love it all, but one of my favorite parts is the section on New York. It was so interesting to read your diaries and to look at the photos. It brought back wonderful memories of our trip. We had a fantastic time, didn't we?
Hello, Robert here, speaking to you from Kenya. I really like the video catalogue. There are some amazing short films. Your underwater footage of the Great Barrier Reef is so beautiful, Carrie. And Tippy, your film about traditional Thai dancing is amazing. The masks are astonishing. I was quite scared.
Hi guys, Carrie here. I'd like to congratulate Usha and Ali on the science section. It's not always easy to make science fun, but you certainly did it. Ali, I was laughing out loud at your feature on crazy inventions. Well done to whoever did the illustrations. They were hilarious.
Hello everyone, Ali here. Thanks, Carrie. It was me who did the illustrations. Glad you liked them. I think my favorite thing is the feature on the oil spill in Alaska in the environment section. The photos of wildlife are really moving, and the interview with Brad's dad is excellent. It's fascinating to hear from someone who was actually on the spot and involved in the clear-up.
Hi guys. Thanks for what you said about my dad, Ali. He really enjoyed being a part of the project. Like the rest of you, I think the website is amazing, but I think my favorite section is education. Well done, Robert and Sophia. You and your teams have done a brilliant job. It's really interesting to find out how schools differ around the world, and it's good to realize that some of us are more fortunate than others where education is concerned. Great work, guys. I can't wait to see how the website develops. It's going to be very exciting.